I say EFCC they don't own their searchlight, so they wait for the governor. So any governor when they say record not just clear, EFCC don't own their searchlight, they wait. So just watch the video, me see how they go.
Governors whose tenures are about to expire to discredit the leadership of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. In a statement, the group is calling on the governors to stop using accusatory tactics to intimidate public officials, particularly those working in law enforcement, anti-corruption, and the judiciary, in the hope to divert public attention from their cases of humongous corruption and mindless stealing of public resources. However, the group also challenges anyone with evidence of corruption against EFCC or any other anti-corruption agency to come forward. KESA says that the governors behind the plot are those being investigated by the EFCC for sundry corrupt acts.
All right, our Rise analyst Frank Tietie joins us now for more on this. Frank, good to see you. And, you know, I used the word deja vu earlier on while speaking with Rastanjani. A few of the things we're seeing now amount to what we've seen before. You know, sometimes the hunter becomes the hunted. Now, but again, paint us a picture because you've been following this in the news.
This appears to be a regular script. No Rubado didn't escape it. Farida Waziri didn't escape it. Ibrahim Lamode. The idea is that it's just a bunch of hollow, you know, practice of always throwing up phantom accusations against a sitting EFCC chairman, because it's a trend that we've seen with past governors. Was the moment it comes to a point where their tenures are about to expire, in order to whip up some kind of sentiment, you know, public sentiment, you know, against the fact that they are currently under investigations. There are several pieces of evidence that are mounting against them, and the EFCC has done. They know that the EFCC is after them. They know that they will not survive being, you know, arrested by the EFCC. So they do that. They did it to Nuhu Rubadu. They did it to Lamode. They did it to Farida Waziri. So it's a normal thing in order to discredit a current EFCC chairman so that they abuse the mind of the incoming president. You know, but the problem is, it hasn't really helped us, because we are talking about some governors, in this case, particularly with regards to that of Zamfara State, Governor of Zamfara State, who has decided to apply very cheap tactics of, you know, continuing in that practice, even if it has not helped us. But, you know, in that case, what it does is that simply just throw around any accusation, even though you know it's not substantiated, and you know you may not be arrested because you still have some measure of immunity, and then thinking that that will dissuade the anti-graft agency, particularly in this case EFCC, from going after you, but it won't work.
We should even talk about this issue of immunity for governors, president, and those that are protected, you know, with this whole immunity thing. I mean, is it something that really needs to be looked at? So that, you know, whether you're in office or outside of it, you are open to investigation.
Yes, it's just that there was a laudable, you know, reason why the Constitution gives immunity to governors. Even unfortunately, it's been abused. Like we see that happening with regards to, you know, Bello Metawale of Zamfara State. Because he's governor, he knows that he cannot be arrested for criminal defamation. You just don't sit down somewhere and make sweeping statements that are unfounded or without basis and said the EFCC chairman asked me to give him $2 million. How? Where? On what basis? What time did he didn't say anything? Because he knows that this is Nigeria. But Frank, when you throw around lies that travel very, very fast, Frank, and nobody will ask you, and then you just want to discredit a young man that has been transforming the EFCC in the way we haven't seen. And Frank,
that is why we will ask. Now, you're also a lawyer, and when someone throws, you know, such allegations, and it's been days until this moment, he still has not been able to substantiate that. What do we do?
Yeah.
The problem is the immunity, as Ngozi has referred to, I would say. If he were to be without immunity, he would have been invited, you know, by any of the, not necessarily the EFCC, but the EFCC does have the powers to do so. Come under the EFCC Act, under the Criminal Code, under the various criminal laws, and say, please, would you substantiate what you have said? Because it amounts to criminal defamation under Section 373 of the Criminal Code for you to make statements that injure the reputation of another person calculated to damage his person. In this case, you just because you know that the EFCC has strong evidence against you, has been following the tracks of how much you've stolen money, in this case, a particular governor, and then you know that you just do the normal thing. And then the problem is, if we don't stop, you know, giving credence to these false accusatory tactics, I would say, being used by these governors time and again. They've used it against quintessential anti-corruption people. If we don't, you know, stop it, they will adopt it, and they will also extend it to judges. So all that you need to do is say, you are before a judge and you say, oh, I know your brother is
are you saying, Frank, that this is a mere attempt at blackmailing, using immunity to blackmail the EFCC boss? Is that what's going on here?
Absolutely. And you know, it's important that the incoming president should not, you know, to take this seriously by not being misled, to, you know, and which will amount to defeating the anti-corruption effort, particularly of the EFCC. We have seen and praised the EFCC chairman, Abdul Rashid Bawa, in the new strides that he has made, especially in the area of compliance to law, the compliance to court orders, and respect for the human rights of accused persons. Now, in this case, the governor has been left alone, but quietly being investigated. From the information that at my disposal, I do know that the EFCC is nearing conclusion on the investigation of the particular governor. That's in the statement it made, that the governor has misappropriated and practically stolen, you know,
as much as 70 billion.
And now, all the governor needs to do in answering to that would have been to wait quietly until he steps down from office and turns himself to the EFCC to disprove or to answer to the allegations. But he has decided to go the way of past governors or throwing accusations around. And because such accusatory tactics have not been dealt with before, because they are surreptitious, that's the reason why it has to be brought to the fore.
That's the taxes I want us to also dig into. Because you actually started by saying that it hasn't worked, you know, against the Nigerian people. Now, let's now talk about the appointers of these, you know, chairmen in the past, and now in this very case, the government of Nigeria. How is it that they are also swayed by things that are so frivolous, as you have, you know, described them, to the extent that they allow it to affect, you know, those that they have so given such
responsibility?
You know, in this case is peculiar. We see Abdul Rashid Bawa that is committed to fighting corruption and being committed to showing that he's going to use the instrument of the EFCC Act and, you know, to tackle those who have pilfered, who have practically corruptly enriched themselves with state resources. Now, this trend happens whenever there is a change of government. So they do it in such a manner that they want to abuse the mind of an incoming president. But what we're saying is that the incoming president needs to be circumspect, because it does more damage to the institution of anti-corruption in Nigeria when all a man needs to do to win some public sympathy is to throw false allegations around, to say unsubstantiated statements against the personality of the ICPC chairman or the EFCC chairman. In this case, I think it's going too far, because when you just sit down and make a statement that, oh, he asked me, how? And then what the Nigerian public thinks, if we don't interrogate these issues properly, is that, oh, there is some semblance of truth. Whereas the governor, the Zamfara state governor, in this case, Metawale, did not have any basis, whether he saw it in his dream or whatever, or he was told somewhere, he cannot even substantiate it.
So in other words, what you're saying is that he needs to substantiate this claim of, you know, having been asked $2 million on the part of the EFCC boss. But when such an allegation is made, whether by a governor who has immunity or anybody for that matter, is there a chance that that claim would be investigated or should be investigated?
Of course, and that's how it works. This is how it works, I would say. The first thing you do is to bring the material, the particulars of that, you know, allegation. At so time, at so place, I recorded a call, or in the presence of so and so person, or through this medium, he requested that I give him a 2 million naira bribe. These particulars are missing. So we are seeing a sweeping, sensational marketplace, beer parlor statement by a sitting governor just because he wants public sympathy. And this has been a trend. And that's the worrisome part of it. This has been a trend used by previous governors, and we are foreseeing that it's a trend that will be used by people, many more governors, and by people who are standing trial in certain courts by simply throwing accusations around. So that's the reason why a circumspect, a public, I mean, that is wise, should look